Hello and welcome to The Exchange, the program where we invite leaders in their field to exchange their ideas on a topic that is current and relevant to our everyday lives. I'm Rob Buckingham and my co-host on The Exchange is my wife Christie.
I'm looking forward to today, considering I actually never stopped working having babies, so this will be interesting on how to help people to do this. We're talking about mums returning to the workplace after having kids. We'll look at what mums need to do to prepare for going back to work, as well as the options that are available.
To discuss this topic, we're joined by Raelene Campbell, who established Career Take Two, an organisation that supports parents with navigating their way back into the workforce. Welcome, Raelene.
Thank you, great to be here.
Wonderful.
We're also joined by Petti Pettinella, who is a stay-at-home mum who established her own stationery business by invitation only from her own home. Welcome, Petty. It's great to have you.
Hi guys, thanks very much for having me.
I'm really looking forward to this conversation, but before we do that, let's take a look at this.
Returning to the workforce after taking time off to start a family can be difficult. Your skills might be out of date, there might be a big gap on your resume, or you might think you're too old. With the right help and a little hard work, you can regain your confidence and prepare yourself to rejoin the workforce.
Offering some really great advice today for mums who want to return back to work after having kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Raelene, you have 20 years experience in helping people with their careers, and Petty, you've basically established your own business after working 12 years in TV. Tell us a little bit about your story and how you did that.
Well, for me, I commenced my career in human resources, and that was really focusing on recruitment, selection and retention of staff. And I loved that career. That was all before I had children. And I left there to go on maternity leave. And as things transpired, I actually had 3 children. So every time I started to think about going back to work, I was having another baby. So I effectively had 5 years out of the workforce. But over that time, it really gave me, obviously, an opportunity to reflect on what it was that I wanted to go back to. And I decided that it wasn't really recruitment and selection per se that I enjoyed, but the process of helping people achieve their own career life goals. So I decided to go back and study. And I studied part-time and I studied online, so as I could do that with the children. And the other thing which I did was actually join a professional association. And in doing that, it enabled me to start to reconnect again and build some contacts. And when I started to meet these people, I actually developed a relationship with one particular careers counsellor who became my mentor. And so, you know, going through those processes really enabled the transition back to work so much easier. But in saying that, of course, I studied careers counselling, so that means that I knew the steps and the processes to take.
You did the right preparation.
Exactly, and there's a lot involved, you know, so I actually knew how to put together a proper marketing document, how to create an appropriate online profile, how to job search and where to find the right sorts of jobs for what I was looking for, how to interview and how to negotiate an offer. But, you know, there is a lot involved, and it's not easy for mums that haven't been educated in that.
And Petty, you took a different path. What was your journey like?
I did. Similar to you, I didn't leave the workforce as such. After working 12 years in the media industry, I decided that after having child number 3, I made my decision that I wanted to actually work from home and try to work around the children more, rather than having the children work around my work life. I wanted to have be able to work around the children more, so I decided that working from home was the way to go for me, and that's when business partner and I came up with by invitation only.
Fantastic. What
would you say is the biggest obstacle for a mum with kids who wants to go back to work?
It's a difficult question to answer because there's lots of different obstacles depending on that particular person. But one of the most consistent themes that I come across with my clients is this feeling of being disconnected. It's actually not really knowing what's out there because obviously the world of work is changing at such a rapid pace. And when we're talking about mums returning to work, we're not just talking about people that have been on 12 months maternity leave. You know, we're talking about people that have been out of the workforce for 5, 10, 15, even 20 years.
And things have changed massively, haven't they, during those years?
And, you know, it's this feeling of just being disconnected and saying, well, I actually first and foremost, don't even know what I want to do. But, you know, secondly, if I do know what I want to do, then I've lost all my contacts and I don't know how to start to take the steps back out there. And it's really challenging. So it's about really, you know, taking baby steps and reconnecting.
Sure. What would you say to that, Petty? The major obstacles?
Just finding the time. For me, it was because I had made my decision to be around the children. They were my number one focus. So then while you're doing that, you still have to run a business. You still have to get out there. And when you're working 9 to 5 and you work in an office environment, you're after 5 or 5:30 or whatever time you finish, you're able to leave it there and go home to your family. Whereas when you're at home, you are on, and now especially with iPhones and everything, all those sorts of things, you're now on call 24/7. People know that you have internet access on your phone. You've got Facebook messaging, you've got your mobile phone, you've got your business line that's sometimes connected to your phone, and you are getting those calls all the time. So it's about the balance. So while you're still trying to be there with your children, you're still getting all these demands.
It's actually more difficult, I have found, because instead of saying mummy's going to work now and then mummy comes back and then they don't get it, you're always on the phone. Yes, I'm on the phone because I'm in the park with you right now.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
Otherwise I'd be in the office.
That's it. And it's also friends as well and family. Because you are home, they think that you're home relaxing, watching TV, reading a magazine. You know, you don't really have very much on because you're actually home. You're not physically going to work. You're not leaving the home. So you're very much accessible at home. Yeah. So, yeah, that's also the juggling act.
Working from home or starting your own business, which is what you've done, is the purpose of that, was the purpose of that in your mind to equal the income that you had or to better it, or was it purely a lifestyle decision?
Purely lifestyle. Unfortunately, I would love to say it was to better my income. I would love to be able to say it, but my husband would roll his eyes and laugh at you for that one. The income isn't the same. It's nowhere near the same, but I knew that going into it, and it was a life decision that I made, and I just thought to myself, what do I want to achieve? Do I want the big income, or do I want to look back on my life and think I was there? And for me personally, it's only a personal decision because it had to come from me. For me, it was better to be going on the excursions with the kids and being there when they came home from school, and to be able to put my things down at 3 o'clock and be there for school pickup. And that was unfortunately, that was the give that I had to give, was the nice income.
And I think you're right, there really is you know, a balance there and a bit of a trade-off. And, you know, I know when I speak to a lot of women, they sort of say, well, I could be potentially walking away from a job that's paying $50 an hour to sometimes be earning $5 an hour when it's your own business. I mean, you put a lot of extra hours in there, and it's very hard to turn off. And so this is where it comes back to that notion of flexibility and what it means to you. Yes. Because for some people it means, you know, yes, being able to work from home and work around the children, whereas for other people they say, no, flexibility to me means that I can actually turn off at work and then, you know, I'm home and
be home and actually be present.
I'm 100% present, exactly.
Yep.
So, you know, you need to go into that absolutely with an open eyes.
Raelene, you mentioned before that, you know, it's going to be difficult for a woman who's been out of the workforce for X number of years to get back in again. There's a lot that they have to do. What sort of things would you say to a lady to prepare herself to re-enter the workforce? What sort of things would she need to do?
Sure. Look, she really needs to take stock of her skill sets and sit down and have a good look at what are the skills that she's got that she is good at, and out of those skills, what is it that she enjoys doing? And that will really help map out some sort of career pathway. But then you also need to look at where the deficits are and say, all right, what are the skills that are a little bit rusty or that I need to add on to that? And so building up those skills, and that may be through returning to study like I did, or it could be through, you know, volunteering. So there's lots of different ways that you can gather those skills. Another option is even to go back into a job that's a little beneath what you're ideally wanting, but upskilling in the process. So, you know, taking a good look at your skills. And another component of that is that as a mother, looking at your life holistically, so don't just focus on what you did in your last paid job, recognise that through being a mum, you've actually developed new skills through that as well.
Yeah, very true.
You know, there's a lot of employability skills that you can take back to market.
Yes.
But, you know, we need to recognise them and you need to articulate them so as you can then sell that to an employer.
Do you think we can, or do you think we need someone like you to help us?
Look, support goes a long way. I mean, here am I, I'm a careers counsellor and I still got support in the form of a mentor, you know, and I think that sometimes when you're actually in the eye of the storm, you know, and you've got the children and you're trying to juggle everything, you can't see beyond it all. And that's where I think when somebody comes in with fresh eyes and has a look at it.
Give you an external perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I have a lot of mums say to me, oh, I'm just a mum. But when you delve a bit further, they've been on committees, they've been on fundraisers, they've been down at the school helping, they've been doing all these extra things. And you think, well, there's employability skills right there.
Yeah, brilliant. We need to take a break and we'll be back with much more discussion soon on The Exchange. Welcome back to The Exchange. We're having a great discussion with Raelene Campbell and Petti Pettinella about mothers returning to work. Raelene, what is the return in investment that mums can provide employers?
Well, in Australia, we have one of the highest rates of educated women in the world, yet interestingly, one of the lowest participation rates in the actual workforce. So here we are with this mass of highly educated, highly capable, even I'd say inspiring women in many ways who aren't being fully tapped into.
Yeah.
So, you know, if employers are looking for quality candidates, then they need to open up their selection processes and criteria to incorporate mums into that. And, you know, the return on investment that they're going to get is huge because mums really appreciate flexibility. And I think that, you know, from being a mum, the very nature of being a mum means that when you're on the job, you're on the job. You know, we give a lot because we know we've got to fit a lot into our time.
Yes.
So, you know, mums, the feedback that I consistently hear from employers is that mums are really productive.
So you get good quality and a great work ethic.
Absolutely, and maturity as well. And I mean, look, depending on the role that they're going into, but being a mother can bring another dynamic as well to what you do. You know, it doesn't necessarily just have to be caring roles, but my sister, for example, is a teacher, and she was saying that when she went back to work after being a mum, that it, you know, she came back to it with a different level of understanding.
Okay, absolutely.
yes.
But not necessarily just caring roles, it could be marketing, it could be sales, it could be a lot of different things where you just have that extra life experience that you can bring back to work as well.
For sure.
And you appreciate being there, I think, sometimes as well. If you've spent the time with the children and you're ready to go back into work, you go back into work and you work your hours and you really appreciate being there, you appreciate the adult company and the topics that you speak about with your colleagues, and then at the end of the week or end of the working days, you're ready to go back home to your family. So you're getting the best out of both worlds.
It is a good mixture, isn't it?
Yeah,
and,
it is.
You know, I mean, I know that having children can be quite stressful at times, and I mean, personally, some mornings I'm very grateful to get to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
It's funny because some mums say, I want to go back to work to have a break.
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
I'm just tired.
What would you say is one of the main reasons mums do go back to work? Is it to make ends meet, or is it because they want to work?
Probably both, but more likely, in my situation, would have been for the income.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Look, I think that money is obviously a contributing factor, and it's, you know, very significant because it's expensive to raise children in Australia.
Yes.
But it doesn't have to be the sole reason. And for mums that want to go back to work, they say, sure, I want to earn money, but you know what, I'm looking for intellectual stimulation, I'm looking for social interaction, I'm looking for professional development, I'm looking for a whole host of other things. And if you're going to earn money, then you may as well be doing it with something that you enjoy doing.
So true.
Absolutely.
So it's a whole range of things.
Yeah.
Definitely. Just
Wonderful.
tell us...
We'll just hold that
Sorry.
thought for a moment because we've got to go and hear what the people on the streets have to say. Take a look at this.
What do you think are the biggest issues for mums going back to work?
I think the biggest issues is just balancing the two aspects of work and life balance. I've obviously got two competing interests. It helps if you've got an accommodating employer.
Finding appropriate care for their children that's affordable.
I guess detaching from their kid when they're first born.
Probably the guilt in having to do that, I think. I was a stay-at-home mum and I had to make that decision, you know, whether to stay at home or go back to work. A lot of mums want to stay at home, but they can't afford to do that.
Probably the fact that maternity leave isn't always really provided for by their organisation. Also the fact they probably want to be with their child, but at the same time they want to pursue their career.
Probably financial worries. Is your child being in care cheaper than going to work?
How do you think we can make it easier?
I think workplaces probably have to be a bit more supportive of mothers in the workplace, and probably account for the fact that they need more flexible working hours and things like that.
Determination by the mother. She has to really want it, and she has to go back to work for the right reasons.
Probably more opportunity for them to stay home for longer. So maybe government funding, more parental paid leave.
I think it depends on your employer as well, to be honest. Being a mother, your kids can be sick. Not everyone has family support that can look after the children if, you know, your children are sick.
Just either do one or the other, don't try and do both, I guess.
I don't think it can ever be resolved, really. If you're a full-time working mum and you've got everything to do in the evening as well as run the house, everything, all the bills and things, you know, sometimes the husbands help out, but if you're a single-parent family, I think it's really hard.
Joining us now is Street Talk reporter Sandra Cavallo. Welcome, Sandra.
Hi, how you going?
Really good.
That was great. I was fascinated to hear what people had to say. How did you feel?
Yeah, really good. I did hear a resounding statement, and that was that employers need to be flexible. And that made me question, well, what's the bare minimum of what we expect from employers? And I'm not sure what you both have found with you know, past experiences with employers. What is the bare minimum that we can expect mums to have?
And how flexible they can be. If it's a big organisation, they can probably afford to be more flexible than a smaller organisation.
Well, certainly there's a commercial reality to it. So, you know, we still need to have the productivity and the output. But organisations need to focus on just that, not where it's being done, but when it's being done, you know, and that means that we can create this culture of flexibility. And in order to do that, then obviously people need the tools of the trade. They need to have the right equipment. So they do need to invest in technology, but, you know, there's so many jobs now that can be flexible because of technology.
One of the ladies mentioned guilt, the guilt of having to return back to work. How real is guilt?
Very real. I think that I felt that with my children when I was in the workplace environment. When I worked full time, I had my first 3 children and went back to work after having all 3. And I felt terrible. We had a nanny, and we were very lucky because we had a beautiful nanny and she was such a lovely lady, but I still felt guilty. And when my eldest son took his first step and she was there and I was at work, and she told me, she was so proud, but my heart broke. And, you know, and I was lucky that we had her and she was able to go to the things at school that I couldn't attend because I was at work, but at the same time I felt guilty that I wasn't there. So yeah, it is real. So that's where you have to work out, you know, your balance in life and
what's important.
And what's important, yeah, and what's best for you.
Well, so you would have felt probably that you'd missed out on some significant events in your kids' lives.
Yes, I did, and that's what helped me make the decision later on of what was more important for me, and put things into perspective of what things was I happy or okay with missing out on, and what things did I definitely want to be there for that I would never get the opportunity to be back.
And even with your own business, you probably miss out on a few things as well.
You do. Yeah. You can't be there 100% of the time, and as your children get older, they probably want you to be at the schools less and less for different things. But at the end of the day, all you can do is your best, and you can just try to be there as much as you can, and that's it.
For sure. Sandra, thanks for popping in.
Thank you.
With Street Talk, we'll be back with more of The Exchange in just a moment. Welcome back to The Exchange. We're talking with career advisor Raelene Campbell and business owner Petti Pettinella about mums returning to work.
Yeah, it's a great conversation. Petti, what would you say to mums that want to start up their own business?
I'd say go for it. Just find a passion, something that you're passionate about, and just research it. Find out what's in your area. You might have a passion for something, but there's a lot of it in your area, or you might need to move out to a different area and work on that. So yeah, just research it and go for it.
And is there some particular areas that either of you would recommend that is good for mums to get involved in?
Look, I recommend my clients do a pest analysis, which is looking at the political situation, looking at the economy and what's happening there, social trends and technology. And, you know, if everything's ticking those boxes, then it's probably going to be a winning formula.
That's good. Remember that. Pest. That's great.
But you don't want to be one.
No, don't be a pest.
What are some of the things that friends and family can do to support? And I guess what's fair to ask them, do you think?
Maybe the childcare aspect. I find being staying at home mum, my position is a little bit easier than what it was when I left the home and went to work. You're always relying on someone to be able there to pick up the children from school, or what if you go to work and the children are sick? So in that respect, it's really good to have a good team behind you that might be able to be called upon to pick up the children from school if you need the extra childcare, or even if you have to go to meetings and things like that and work the extra hours. So having a good support base at home that are prepared to put up their hand and look after the children for you.
And Raelene, what do you suggest people do who go back into the workplace? How do they handle the whole school holiday thing?
Yes, look, it is tricky, and this is where a bit of planning needs to come into place, and it needs to come into place from the employer's perspective as well. You know, so often in many situations people can accrue hours and work more hours in advance, or obviously engage external support as well throughout those periods of time.
Or you just have that agreement right up front, say I don't work school holidays or whatever. And
potentially.
It's an area of flexibility.
Would you have employers though that would give you 2 months off? Because there's 2 months, December, January,
No, look, the other big thing that mums need to take into consideration is actually reducing their standards a little bit. You know, because often mums have things really, you know, running smoothly when they've been at home full time, and they want to maintain that. But it's about saying, you know what, 80-20 is still excellent.
Yeah.
Achieve 80% and you're still doing really well.
Wonderful. To wrap up the show, what would be your last piece of advice to mums thinking about getting back into the workforce again?
Look, going back to work is a huge thing to undertake, so really break it down into manageable chunks, and if you feel that you're not breaking through at any point, whether that be, you know, for the job search strategy or your marketing document or your interview skills, then know that support is out there. You don't have to do it on your own.
Yeah.
And we were talking earlier about an interesting statistic. Only 15% of jobs are actually advertised. So where are the rest of them?
They're hidden. You've got to find them. And the way to find those is through your networks. So you need to be able to develop a good, what I call tell me about yourself response, where you're then delivering a clear message to the people that you know, and they can then tell the people that they know about what it is that you're looking for. And the jobs will then start to pop up.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Wonderful. Petty, what would you say? Last piece of advice to mums?
Just to find your balance, to find your work-life balance. You don't want to be putting all your time and all your efforts in to home and letting your employer down, and you don't, at the same time, you don't want to be putting all your time and energy into work and letting your family down. So it's just all about finding that balance, and then once you do that, everyone will be happy.
And I guess as well, making the decision about whether or not you want to work from home or go to the workplace and all of that. Raelene and Petty, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
It's been valuable information. Please go to our website for a fact sheet on this topic, as well as more information about this show, The Exchange. We look forward to seeing you next time.
See you then.